Well, what's up, everyone? Why is it every single time I start, my music doesn't start with me? How dare they? Well, another day, another stream. What's going on, Calico? We've got all the emotes today. Well, welcome to the stream once again, where we are hopefully going to finish up the wizard that we've been working on for the past week and a half. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the lovely hand cam. Boom. Why are you at work, Calico? I will say I literally just got off of work. Like, I got off of work and literally pressed start on my stream. So yeah, exactly. Money. So, what's up? Blah, 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 almost said. Anyway, Storm, whatever your name. It's going great. Gotcha. So I used to work that shift. I used to work 1:30 to 10:30 when I started. Kind of started the job I'm at now. This camera needs to come over a little bit. It moved. Cool. All right, sweet. So, obviously we got our wizard here. Now, he doesn't look exactly like he did when I left because I definitely changed stuff as I'm doing. Playing Sim, which Sim? And are you talking about like Sims or more like Sim City? Because there is a massive difference between The Sims and Sim City. But, like I said, I couldn't help myself. I went ahead and did a few more highlights on this bad boy. Kind of made the light a lot more intense and did a few other things. But we still got a long way to go. So we'll try it. Boring being a god to digital beings. Yeah, see, there is that. What's up, Cal? Dude, 6 to 6? Nah, fam. No way. See, I don't like the third shift life. I like second shift. Second shift is where it's at, right? So right now I'm currently working 12 to 9. And I used to work 1:30, 10:30. And I love it because I can stay up till 3 or 4 a.m. And so it's absolutely perfect for me. So anyway, let's go ahead and get some paint on our palette. We'll start with some white. So one of the things that I didn't do the last time is I really didn't get my light source as bright as I want it. So whenever we're talking about lighting, the brighter the light is, the more white it is, which is why you kind of see in some of these areas I kind of added a little bit of white hue. Well, I really want to start cranking up the brightness in certain areas on this miniature to make it look like it is super bright. So, pretty sure any world where my brother is God is a world that I'm not sure anyone would want to live in. Not insulting to him. I just think that's a reality. I wouldn't want to live in a universe where I am God either, because that would be trouble. Number one, nothing would ever get done. I get bored with it after a week and move on to the next one. So I'm just adding some white underneath the hand here. Again, just trying to bump up the brightness just a little bit. And then we'll do the same down here on these wrist thingies. By wrist thingies, I mean wrist wraps. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start highlighting some of the edges of these wrist wraps to make it look like the light is hitting them a little bit more intensely. Like so. who are the plot armored force sensitive types that you speak of? So, now that we've done that, we're going to move on to... Except Rey, because her last name is not Skywalker. But she does wear the plot armor fairly well. Rey who? Rey Skywalker. Shut up! I'm not a fan of that, by the way, if you couldn't tell. I mean, for better or worse, they are canon, officially. Just depends on whether you accept the official canon or not. And to be fair, Disney has brought in some characters that are really good that I can't wait to see more of on screen, on the big or the small screen. For instance, Thrawn is now... Yep, let me change that. Autofocus is off, so I'm not sure. So main camera is in this one or the one on my face? What's up, Liam? Interesting, because it is... That's fair. Because, I mean, it is literally a manual focus, so there's literally no way that it's digitally being brought in and out of focus. That's a little weird. Huh. I need some dark gray. So one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about as far as my light source goes is the casting of shadows, right? So I think we're good as far as like where the light is hitting, but now I really want to start looking at where the shadows are versus where they should be. So for instance, if we look at our light source here, this book, the bottom of this book should be preventing any light from hitting certain areas, right? So those areas would probably be at like a certain angle down and then a hard line across his body, right? So what I'm thinking is right across here, I'm going to put a hard shadow across this so that it kind of cuts off some of this reflection. And then areas like right behind his elbow, where his arm is kind of blocking off that light, that we're going to put a shadow there. We'll have another shadow, a very intense shadow underneath this little piece of cloth. And just start trying to make it look like our lighting source is actually light. Not entirely sure how we're going to do that, as far as like how the shadows are actually going to look. Let's just do it and find out, shall we? So what I want to do, I don't have a straight edge. So let me grab one of my files here. For those of you who want to get into miniature, I just love dropping things in paint, don't I? But thankfully it was just the handle of a file and not a miniature, because that was tragic. So the Rule of Two has an interesting history. Because the Rule of Two not all Sith actually agreed with the Rule of Two. Palpatine didn't agree with the Rule of Two, right? So he had, before he killed Plagueis, it was him, Plagueis, and Maul. So he didn't actually believe in the Rule of Two. Exactly. So the Sith Rule of Two, as Bane intended it, was essentially a way where this constant struggle of, like Stormtrooper said, this constant struggle of apprentice against master and apprentice against master, you would end up with the ultimate Sith at the very end, right? And so what that ended with was all of the power in the dark side being imbued into people, but you also had this idea of the Sith getting better and better and better. Because if you couldn't overcome your master, then you weren't better than them, and he would just kill you. But if you could overcome your master, then you were more powerful than him. That was the concept. But like I said, not every single Sith believed in the rule of two, and Palpatine certainly didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use my file here to kind of scrape away some of the paint along the line that I want to paint and create the shadow. Yeah, so the Jedi, who were the, I guess you could say, proto-Jedi. Well, not kind of say, they were like the original Jedi Council. They were the ones that became the Jedi, and they believed in using both the light and the dark side. In fact, they did. The only reason they didn't is, I can't remember what the race was called, but it was a race that was basically all dark side users, and they saw the terror of that the Force could bring about when used as a weapon and weaponized, and so they swore that they would never use the dark side because they felt like the dark side was too aggressive. And it wasn't all of the Jedi; it was mainly one Jedi who started the Jedi Council. Ironically, the Jedi Council at that time actually ended up, I think he, if I remember my lore correctly, the original Jedi, I guess you could say, ended up despising the Jedi Council because he felt it was too militant, and ended up disbanding it and creating a new one. The Jedi Council was never supposed to be permanent. Yep, and it's so ironic that the Jedi, in their zeal to destroy the Sith, ended up making them more powerful, because it was the Jedi Sith War, the original one, that ended up giving Bane the power he had to ultimately defeat, at that time, the Sith Empire. Alright, so now we will go ahead and add some shadows underneath this cloth here, which is actually kind of easy because I'm just holding my lamp above it, and it's actually casting a shadow that I can actually use to trace out the shape that I need. There we go. All right, so I have cast my shadow, and let's start painting it in. Yeah, the ironic thing is the Sith were at least honest about what they wanted, right? The Sith wanted power, and they used the Force to gain that power. The Jedi were nowhere even close to as honest about what they wanted. They didn't want balance. They claimed they wanted balance in the Force, but they didn't. They wanted just as much power as the Sith did. They were just under the guise of being anti-Sith. Now, the Sith weren't by no means the good guys in the Sith-Jedi wars, but there were tragedies and appalling and abhorrent things done by both the Jedi and the Sith during the Sith-Jedi wars in the Old Republic. But again, at least the Sith were honest about what they were, and the Jedi definitely weren't. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think any of like the video game characters would ever be brought back into canon, which is unfortunate because I did like Kyle Katarn as well. In fact, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy is probably my absolute favorite Star Wars video game of all time. What do you mean, but neither were the Jedi? Like, I'm not sure what you were responding to. Yeah, that... Ironically, one of the most fun parts of the game was actually destroying stormtroopers by just moving them off a cliff. It's great. Might help if I kept this in frame. So one of the things that I've learned about lighting over the course of me kind of doing this miniature is I actually asked a group that I'm in for some advice on how to improve this guy. And one of the things that somebody suggested is taking a picture and then using grayscale to take away all the color. And what you would find is that all of the places where the light basically whatever is white or closer to white is your bright spots, and whatever's closer to black are your dark spots. And so it ignores color, which can sometimes kind of be deceptive in a way, because you know different colors may look brighter than others, right? The green may be on the same luminance scale, basically how bright a color is, with my gray, but it will look brighter because it's green instead of gray. So that's something that I actually did off stream. I took a picture of this guy, put him on grayscale, just trying to figure out where all of my dark spots are. So I'm just adding in a little bit of a shadow. Hey Mom, how's it going? I hope your day's been going well. I'm just painting a wizard as usual. Trying to figure out shadows and stuff. Alright. I knew what you meant. By the power of grayscale. So we're just adding in some white here because I was telling them, the rest of the folks here, that adding white to colors actually makes it seem brighter. And so the closer to your light source you are, the whiter you want your color. So right up next to my light source, I want to be white, unless it's fading into a shadow, and then the further away I want closer to green. See, now I'm just jealous. I wish you hadn't told me that. Now I'm craving French silk pie. It makes me mad that I'm craving it. I'm just gonna paint. I'm gonna ignore everything that's going on with that, because yeah. What made you want to make French silk pie? Because normally that's like a holiday thing for our family. For those of you who don't know, French silk pie is essentially a chocolate mousse pie, and it is delicious. My mom has a recipe that we've been making. It's not, I don't think it's our recipe necessarily, but it's a recipe that we've been making since I was a kid, and it's delicious. And we usually make it for like Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. But now I feel like my mom made it just to make me jealous. Like, haha. Your favorite, absolute all-time favorite pie, we made it, and you couldn't have it. Which, by anyone who knows my mom knows that that was probably the most BS statement I could have made. She is not like that at all. But still. Gotcha. Well, I hope they enjoy it. I really do. So what I'm doing now is I am just using some white to highlight some of the center of this kind of magic flame. Something I should have done at the beginning. So whenever we're talking about flame or magical effects, things like that, we have to make the center, it kind of do the opposite, right? So for instance, we take the wizard's back. All of the top spots are brighter than the bottom spots. It gives us that idea of shadow and highlight. Well, fire is the exact opposite. The center of fire is much brighter than the outside of the fire. And so what we end up with is a almost white center. And am I frozen? Am I good? I'm looking at my stream on my end, like I've got Twitch pulled up and looks fine. Calico, Liam, if you're there, can you tell me whether or not my stream is frozen? I need to make sure if it's something on my end or not. Interesting. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Man, you had me worried there for a second. So, as I was saying, I'm actually going to cover this entire flame in white, and we are going to redo the flame because, again, really want to make this look like it's bright, and in order to make it look bright, the center needs to be white or close to white. It may not necessarily be white by the end of it, but it needs to be bright. And I was just saying that when we think about shadows and stuff like that, we always think that the surface of something is brighter than the shadow. With fire, flame, and magical effects, it's the exact opposite. We want the center to be brighter than the edges because that's how fire works. So I'm just painting the flame white, and I will go back and once that's dry and dry brush a little bit of that fluorescent green over it again to make it look like it is casting light. So there's a little bit of a thing on the top of his hat here that I want to get rid of. Get out here. There. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do now, so a delay is in like my speech or like video and audio? Like, what do you mean by delay? Interesting. So evidently my chat is delayed as well. Normally there's a 5 to 10 second delay between, and here's the weird thing is I've got actual Twitch pulled up on one screen and then my broadcasting software on the other screen. Should be fine. But for whatever reason, it is not. A little bit odd. But what I'm doing now is I'm getting ready to dry brush some shadow. So the thing with shadow, I just saw Steven. Stormtrooper. Interesting. And is it showing up in, is it taking that long to show up on Twitch, or is it just my response to you guys? Like, are y'all seeing like in chat in like immediately, or is it a bit of a delay? So the only reason I'm kind of pushing on this is I did get a notification from my streaming software that I'm dropping frames before I even started the stream, like before I came on the stream. So I'm not having any issues accessing the interwebs, so it's a little bit odd that I'm dropping frames, but I mean, they're Twitch and my streaming software look synced. That's odd. But what I'm doing now, we're just gonna honestly just have to live with it. There's not really anything I can do to troubleshoot it while I'm live. I would have to stop the stream and go from there. But what I'm just doing now is I am taking a little bit of blue, adding it to some darker grays, and I'm creating dark highlights as well as some even darker shade, using that technique that I used at the very beginning where I am doing light one way and dark the other to kind of give this idea of depth. The reason I'm using blue is it's actually an interesting technique that I learned a little while ago. If you add blue to your like dark gray black shadows, then for whatever reason it actually reads more like a dark shadow than it would otherwise. So adding color, I guess, adds contrast to your lighting. Don't know. Interesting. So yeah, like I said, I'm not having any issues with that sounds like a Twitch problem, honestly, because again, nothing on my end is showing that I am like losing, like, yeah, I don't know. Because again, I'm seeing that delay I'm seeing your message come through the same time in both Twitch's website and my my software, which is populating the chat. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. But again, I'll just have to deal with the delay, I guess, for now, and then we can troubleshoot it later. But as I was saying, you can use blue to kind of give contrast to some of your shadows, especially if you're using like a black or gray shadow, to kind of give it a little bit more life and more contrast to the other color. It's something I learned from a group that I'm in, and it seems to work really well. Honestly, it might have something to do with my internet. Time Warner is pretty terrible sometimes. Although it might be something with Twitch. I don't know. I do not know. So the only thing I don't like about dry brushing is cleaning the dry brush, because it's so large, it soaks up a ton of water, and it's kind of a pain to clean. But the result is amazing. Maybe. I haven't rebooted it in quite a while, so that might be it. So all I did was add a little bit of more dry brushing on the shadows, adding a little bit of color. And now what I want to do is go back to my wet palette. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take our blue, mixed in with a little bit of our lighter gray, and start pulling up some of these darker spots on the back of his robe. We're using quite a dark blue, so it's actually going to take our lighter blue and darken it up a little bit. So we're just going to hit some of these edges here. Yeah, I like how that's turning out. It's just enough to make it look nice, but it's a little subtle. If you can, I don't know if you can notice on camera, but I'm using more of the side of my brush than the tip of my brush, and what that's giving me is more of an edge highlight versus an actual hard highlight, which is kind of what I want. I can't remember who suggested, I think it might have been Cal, suggested putting my camera a little bit lower so that it looks like I'm looking at the camera whenever I'm actually painting. But then I don't want the, like, to give the camera to be like my double chin, it would be a little weird. And we'll move to the top portion of his robe here. Again, just hitting the very tops of these highlights so that I can kind of help define that and give it shape. Versus just kind of, at this point, the transitions are a little too smooth. So what you end up with is kind of this very subtle effect, but there's nothing about this model that I want to be all that subtle. Let me check something real quick. So does the actual like video look fine to y'all? Because Streamlabs is telling me that I'm dropping about 20% of the frames that I'm sending, which to be fair isn't terrible. I know, I am aware. I say that again, if it's showing up like a minute after, that's kind of a delay, but yes, Mom, I know it's Dad's birthday. I didn't forget yours this year, did I? Or did I? Let's not answer that right now. Just gonna push up some of these shadows just to make sure that I get, again, a little bit more color into them so they're less gray, a little bit more on the bluish side. to give us that contrast between the light and dark. By light, I specifically mean the object light, not the highlights. Okay, interesting. I think Stormtrooper's right. I think I'll just need to go reset my router after this. Because I have noticed that like some of my internet isn't as fast as it should, but I'm not exactly in peak time in my neighborhood, so. There are a lot of families around here. So for us, peak time is more around 6 and 7. So 9 o'clock, most of the kids are going to bed. When I mean kids, I mean young kids, not necessarily teens. See, I didn't forget for once. For those of you who don't know, I am really bad about remembering my family's birthdays. Not necessarily like because I don't care. It's just stuff happens and I unfortunately forget. What up, other nerd? Just fair warning, for whatever reason, the chat is about evidently around a minute behind for whatever reason. So, not sure what's going on, but fair warning. In case I don't respond as quickly as I normally would. We're just talking about how my life is like a case study of issues with object permanence, and how I always forget y'all's birthdays, even if I'm reminded the same day of the birthday. Good to know. Well, see, now it seems back to normal. Because that delay was like a second or two. Or at least on mine it was, because I said something and it almost immediately popped up. Yeah, I know Dad's is tomorrow. Mom just reminded me. But I appreciate the reminder, I really do. Well, we are getting very close to being done. So what I want to do now go back to the wet palette, grab a little bit more of my fluorescent green, and we'll go ahead and do a dry brushing on this flame to get off there, to see if we can't get the effect that I want. And I have never dry brushed fluorescent paint, so I really don't know whether or not this is going to work like I want to, because the issue with fluorescent paint is it doesn't cover well. But this is white, and white usually gives me the best coverage for colors like this, so we'll see. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty decent. Just like I thought, the white is actually allowing me to get a much better coverage than I thought. So let's just stick with it and see what we get. Thanks, man. And by man, I mean girl, woman, whatever. Person who is married. Yeah, I think that flame looks so much better. It really looks bright, as if it's blinding our wizard here. All right, cool. So, the one part of every miniature that I dread doing. The eyes. The eyes are the absolute worst of any paint job, especially these guys because they are so much smaller. So, I think I want to paint his eyes more azure. It's kind of a grayish blue. I think that would look really cool, and it would go with his whole like look. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the nerd glasses and get ready to do some eyeballs. So we're going to take, let's go with some sky gray, and this is going to be for the irises. Yeah, just making sure I got that term right. So we'll take a little bit of our dark blue, a little bit of our light gray, and we'll just mix this until we get to the color that we want. Maybe add a little bit of a darker gray in there, just a drop. There it is, kind of that pale blue gray. Add a little bit of water to thin it down so it flows better off my brush. That is something that, if you're wanting to get into painting, that is probably the biggest advice to any new painter needs to hear, and that is thin your paints down. And also get awesome glasses like this. That has a little light on it. All right, so let's do some eyeballs. I need to get the right angle. Cool. That's not great, but we'll deal with it. There's a little bit of a mistake that I made, so let me grab my skin tone here. Okay. So my stream log isn't showing drop frames again. So I think we're fine. Maybe? I don't know, hopefully. So we'll take our skin tone, add a little bit of gray to give us that shadow that we had earlier. And by earlier, I mean like last week when we originally did skin. And we'll just clean up a little bit around the eyes. There we go. Now, the absolute most difficult part of any eyeball is the pupil. Because it is a small black dot that if you get it wrong, your miniature will look like a derp. It will look super derpy. I have one eyeball facing one way, one eyeball looking like it's facing the other. So, this is the absolute most difficult part of any paint job. So, nerd goggles back on. Shunk. And let's see if we can do this without destroying all my hard work. That's not bad. All right. There's the music. I was like, I don't hear any music. Well, his eyes don't look terrible. They don't look perfect, but they don't look terrible. So let's go ahead and do some refining on some of these bright spots, like on his beard. Because we don't want everything to be super white, but we do want strategically to start putting in on frame. Let's go. Act like a professional. We want to start strategically placing whites, reflections, and highlights along the places where light would be hitting the most intense. So like just along the ridge of his cloak here. Like so. Yeah, not the bird! Just along the closest edges of his robe on the front. Hopefully not shaking too much, because for whatever reason, my hands decide to pick now to start shaking. My hands don't shake often, but when they do, it's on stream. There we go. Let's go ahead and add an edge highlight along the belt here of just pure white. It's not going to be super realistic. That edge highlight's going to like give this idea of bright reflective. I don't know what that was. Bright reflectiveness. And then we'll do the same on his collar here. And just on the tips of these little drawstrings that he's got. Technically Twitch did. So, I like the way that this is turning out. I'm not really sure. You know, I do. There's obviously more refining that needs to be done. I'm just not sure exactly where it all needs to go, if that makes sense. It's like one of the challenges that I find with miniature painting is reviewing my own work as I'm working. If that makes sense. So I think the light would be a little bit more intense along here. So I'm going to pull in the highlight green that I was using, which is the snake scale green. That is actually very true. Stormtrooper was the first family member to follow. So I'll give him that. He started this whole family affair. So I'm just gonna go in and start brightening up some of the highlights inside his robe here. Yeah, I will say it did sound a little bit hipsterish. But he wasn't on Twitch before any of us. He was just on my channel before any of us. So one of the things I'm doing here is I'm slowly but surely working my way up to the pure white tone on the inside of this cloth, because even though light tends to be really contrasty, right, and it looks best being contrasted, With cloth, unlike in metal, the sharper the contrast, the more weird it looks. Like cloth doesn't have that same like really high reflectiveness that metal does. I'm just working these highlights inside the cloak here. Just trying to make sure that I'm consistent with my light volume. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Is like when has Twitch ever been cool? Well, I will say Twitch is kind of more mainstream now than it ever has been, thanks to you know, big streamers like the Doc before he got kicked off of Twitch and before Critical Role. But Twitch is much more popular now than it ever has been in any other time, which is something that a lot of people have already talked about, but that's one of the hardest parts about actually getting big on Twitch nowadays. Is it's so saturated with people now compared to when it used to be. When it used to be, you could just grind and just streaming consistently all the time, and that would get you big. That's what folks, you know, the OG streamers did, but nowadays it's a lot harder to do that because there's so many other options. You have to have something unique if your goal is to make a living in Twitch, which is possible. It's very difficult. And usually you have to have something like YouTube or now TikTok or, you know, Twitter, or a following on other forms of social media to make it big on Twitch. You can't just do Twitch. All right, friends, what do y'all think of that? I'm going to call his body. You know what? I'm not going to call it done yet because I think that needs a little bit of work. I think it needs to darken up a little bit. Now, how do I want to do that? That's the question. Night, Mom. Love you. Hope you have a good night. Let's just use a shade. Let's do the lazy thing. So with her going to bed, that's actually a really good test point. Like how long ago did she go to bed between that and like when I actually got that message? I know, it's great music. It's a service called Stream Beats by a guy named Harris Heller. He does like a lot of stream videos and like how-tos and like stuff like that, and he went to college for music production, and one of the businesses that he runs is he does Stream Beats, which is copyright-free music. So that's where I get all the tunes that I play on stream, because it's just good. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start working on the bass. I want to start working on, yeah, so that's typically where the delay sits, about 5 to 10 seconds. So we're about normal or so, yeah. But keep in mind that Liam, you are in Canada, so the delay between you and my sister, who lives a couple states down from me, your delay is going to be a few seconds more, I'd say. A little bit more latency to Canada than it is to a couple states over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working on the base. I'm going to start by dry brushing this a dark brown color to give it a little bit of texture once I get to the actual like grays that I'm going to be using for this cobblestone. So then we'll move to my black gray. Cool. Yeah. So it's about normal for Twitch then, because Twitch is about 8 to 9 seconds or so. So what I'm doing now is I'm moving to this dark gray color to contrast the black. And what I'm going to do with stone is I take grays that are of varying darkness and I build up to an almost white. And that will bring out a lot of the patterns. And then I will dull that white down with a dark wash, which will give me a lot of the textures that I couldn't get with my brush, with just dry brushing. And it'll help me work with those. So next shade up, blending gray. Going a bit faster now because I'm excited because this miniature is almost done. Depending on how long this last stage takes will depend on how long I worked on it, but 2 streams in a row, it's about 6 hours. And we are now an hour into this, so we've worked on this thing for around 7 hours now. So I am ready to see the finished product and to start posting stuff on social media to show it off to the world. Is that what she told you? I kid. Trust me, I know. So when dry brushing doesn't matter as much as all the other techniques I'm using, because all the other techniques I'm using makes me like I want to take my time on. With dry brushing, it actually does benefit me going a little bit faster. Because the faster the dry brush glides over the stone, the more texture we get. I'm going to transition to my smaller brush here so I can get underneath this cloak a little bit better in some of these tighter areas. Fair enough. Coffee, I have to say, there's somebody on that, when I fixed the broken foot. Did I fix the broken foot? Well, I did fix the broken foot. I forgot about that. No, so what I ended up doing is I ended up breaking off the miniature from the base and re-gluing it completely. I forgot that happened. Dry this brush off, and we'll go to our lightest color that we're going to use, which is this sky gray, I think is what it's called. Yeah, sky gray, which is kind of like a cloudy gray. It will it's almost white. So you see we're getting a lot of that nice stone texture coming out. We'll just continue to work this in until we get it right where we want it. Kind kind of looking up at the camera, because believe it or not, the camera captures a little bit more, I don't know how to put it, captures a little bit more like contrast, I guess you could say. So looking up at the camera, just kind of seeing what it sees is extremely helpful. So come over here to my small dry brush, so we can get into all the areas that the larger one couldn't. Making sure that we're just barely getting on the tops of all these surfaces. Yeah, that's probably what's going on. I would probably agree with that. So I like that, but I want to do one more bump in brightness. So let's add some white to our palette. So just pick up a little dot of white and then some of that sky gray, mix it together. And we'll just very, very lightly go over the surface, hitting the corners, bringing out that really nice brightness. Like that. Yeah, I really like it. And then what I'll do is I'll actually throw on a dark wash, which will darken a little bit, and then I'll probably go back over it with the same color. But that wash is going to seep into all of those really, really dark, deep recesses and really, really bring it out. All these cool textures that are on the stone base will make it look super cool. And one thing I have to figure out too is there's these little dust plumes everywhere. Got to figure out what I'm going to do with those. I don't know if I want to make them gray, or if I want to make them look like dust and dirt. Haven't decided yet. Y'all tell me what you think. So also, if you're using like dry brushes or makeup brushes like these to do your dry brushing, and you are also using a texture palette, after you dry off most of your brush, it's really helpful to run over your texture palette, because that will actually pull away some more of the paint. You can like rub it on the edges of the texture palette. And the wood that this particular texture palette is made from, it's not wood, it's more MDF, will absorb that water and help the dry brush actually dry out so you can use it again with the same session. All right, so let's take a large synthetic brush here. Go ahead and get it wet. We're just going to come grab our what's this stuff called? I can't ever remember. Nuln oil from Citadel, and we're just going to work that into all these cracks and crevices, and it will really make all this cool stone detail pop like crazy. It'll also dry nice and matte too, so it's going to make it look even more like stone. Tell Aster that she is indeed a demon, and that she needs Jesus. For those of y'all who don't know, Aster is my sister's cat, not an actual person. Just to make that really clear. All right, so let's go back to the wet palette, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with a lighter brown, like my olive skin or my fair. I might also go with maybe some bone shadow, and then I'll work up my way to Xandri Dust by Citadel. We'll use that triad. So we'll start with the bone. And then we'll work our way up, and that's what we'll into a dry brushing of the Xandri Dust, and that will be our dust plumes. Don't know if it's going to look good, but we're definitely going to try. We're going to figure it out together. Pretty sure you've told me the gender of both of your cats multiple times, but I can't ever remember what they are, to be honest. Again, poster child for object permanence. I will remember the pattern of their fur for the rest of my life, but Lord knows I will never remember their name or their gender unless you actually say it. This music really does vibe though. I love it. I thought about switching to more of a rock or metal, but then I'm like, this fits this style stream so much better. Gotcha. Well, at least I got one of their genders right, even though I only had a 50% chance. All right, so we'll let that dry. So we'll go ahead and put our, where'd the other brown go? Oh, that was the brown I wanted. Put away our bone and grab our olive skin shade. And we'll go ahead and put down some of the Xandri Dust. So I don't know what it's been, but my shoulder, like right on that, like, muscle, been killing me over the past couple days. I don't know why. Maybe because I spent 6 hours painting on Sunday, 5 hours on painting on Saturday, and 4 hours painting on Friday. No, 8 hours painting on Sunday. 8 hours? It was from when I got home from D&D at like, or no, it was after the stream last night till like 1:30 a.m. So it was, I don't know, whatever that is. It's like 8:30 to 1 a.m. Okay, cool. And the book is dry. The bottom of the book is dry, so we're going to add a little bit more shade to that as well. Again, because we want it pretty dark, because it's in shadow. And the shade is almost going to act like a glaze, and just it's going to bump up the opacity every single time we add it. But I don't, because you bear a lot of that weight as well, I might add. Steven bears a lot of that weight. Dad bears a lot of that weight. Mom bears a lot of that weight. I don't know. Just in different areas. So that's what it is. The weight of the painting part is this part of the shoulder. That's what it is. The weight of the painting talent. Man, I should have put these down on my dry palette. Whatever. So we are going to take some of this and start liberally dry brushing it onto these plume clouds. Because I want that original layer to come through, but not as much as I want the next color. And then the brightest shade that I'm going to be using will be the most subtle color, I guess you could say. Oh boy. I don't know why I looked. Don't worry about it. You don't want to know. You really don't. So we're gonna take our dry brush and very lightly dry brush our last color over this, and then we'll see where we're at. If it looks too dark still, then we'll add a little bit of white to that color. I think there are some areas down here that need a little bit of attention. That's what she said. Glad Mom's not here for that one. Probably also what she said. So yeah, I'm going to add a little bit lighter color. And this is just going to very lightly hit these the tops of this. I don't care, I'll put it on TikTok. There we go. I think I like that color for the dust. So let's go back. It looks like our shade is almost dry. So once it is fully dry, because we don't want to actually start pulling up any of that, because one of the really frustrating things about washes, unlike paint, is with paint you can if you accidentally wait and you pull up a layer of paint when it's still wet, you can deal with that. But if you do that with shade, I mean, again, if I was embarrassed about that, I wouldn't be wearing them on stream. But again, you can't really deny the result of me wearing them. Like, they may look goofy, but I get a good result and I'm able to see what I'm doing. So I don't know why I keep putting that away. I'm going to need it again. So let's go ahead and is that still wet? Yeah, it is. So we'll go ahead and put down a little bit more white because we ran out of that. And then we'll go back and dry brush over that last color one more time. To bring back a little bit of that whiteness. Like that. See, like it adds an extra step, but man, that wash makes those details pop. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to everywhere underneath him. So we'll just have to get as close to underneath his robe as possible. From most angles, it'll look fine. Plus, it almost looks like it's a shadow. So there we go. I present to you the wizard. Oh, just saw something. Hold on. We're not done yet. Saw something that needs to be done. So we are going to take a quick glaze of this green here that I've got. And the inside of his palm is still not reflective enough. And by enough, I mean like at all. So just gonna add a little bit in there just to make sure his skin is getting a nice reflection from our light. Like that. Now, move that around a little bit so it's not as intense. A little bit more pigment to my glaze just to give me a little bit better coverage for the first coat. Because again, I'm looking to make this look like it's hitting that light, but not look like it's super reflective or powerful. All right. Well, there's one last thing that we've got to do, and that is black out the base. So this is always the last thing I do. I think it makes the miniature look like it's done. Makes it look a lot more, not professional, but like, it's like when you're polishing boots and you use that like black sole or whatever it's called to like black out the edge polish or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. Wow. I used to polish my boots all the time. Anyway, I think most of you know what I mean. It just makes it look finished and completed. So we're just going to paint the edge of our base here black. Never mind this little print error here. My printer decided that it wanted to add just a random line in the middle of my miniature, which is really annoying, but never said I was good at 3D printing. Then again, I never said I was good at painting either. I don't know if I mentioned this on stream, but I actually entered a painting show-off / competition. So essentially, my local Games Workshop store, and Games Workshop are the ones who produce Warhammer 40K. The store wanted to do a painting challenge. And so what we did is you would get a Primaris Captain miniature from like their magazine that they produce. It's like a $6-7 miniature. And if you guys know the prices of 40K, you know that that is absolutely dirt cheap. So you would buy that miniature and then you would randomly roll a chapter. And so you could roll Ultramarines, you could roll Salamander, or you could roll some random unknown what are those things called? Successor chapter. And so you had no idea what you were painting. You knew like the miniature you're painting, but you didn't know the color scheme or any of that when you entered. And so when I bought the miniature and randomly rolled, I got a successor chapter called Star Demon, or Star Dragon. And I got super lucky because my army is Ultramarines, which Ultramarines, for those of you who know 40K, is blue and gold. They're kind of like the poster children of Warhammer 40K. Well, turns out Star Dragons are literally just Ultramarines with white trim instead of gold. Like the chest eagle is white, and their backpack is white, and their emblem is white. And that's literally the only difference between them and Ultramarines. So I spent a good 10 hours painting this miniature on Friday and Saturday. 10 hours total. Turned it on Sunday morning. And so they'll keep the miniatures in the case, and then people who come to the store can vote on what they believe is best in show. Best in show essentially is just bragging rights, but it was more about like the chance to get your work shown off. But yeah. was a lot of fun. It was a really good challenge because I didn't know about it. Like, evidently he had been, the store owner had been advertising it for a couple weeks, but I didn't know about it until 2 days before. So I had 2 days to paint up this, like, what I would consider like competition ready miniature, which I did. And it was a really, really fun experience. So we'll see if anybody votes for mine. There were some really cool miniatures in that case though, man. But it was a fun experience because I also had to 3D print the emblem for his shoulder. Because the thing about successor chapters don't actually have any transfers, which the transfers are the transfer sheets are like the decals for the 40K models. So I went and 3D printed a shoulder emblem for Star Dragons, and it turned out well. So, all right, well, as always, I will post pictures of this guy on my Discord as well as the TOI Discord, just to show y'all the finished product in better detail. But I think he's done. I think there's a lot more I could do with him, but I have a really bad habit of not knowing when to quit. So I think we are going to quit with this miniature at least. He is lit by the book, hopefully, but I appreciate it. So I think he's done. But in case y'all hadn't noticed, it's only an hour and a half in the stream. So how about we do this? I've got this guy. So this, my brother would know because he is into 40K lore. This is an Inquisitor. Recently, Games Workshop released this guy is a limited edition miniature, and I'm about halfway through painting him, but I'm nowhere near finish. I'm just, man, that sword looks so good on camera. I'm just saying. But anyway, so I've got a few things I need to do on him left still. So I think it would be cool to finish him on stream. So since we've got time, nothing but time. So if you have any questions about 40K or this miniature in particular, drop them down in chat and I'll be happy to answer them to my best ability. But where is that data sheet? Here it is. This is the Inquisitor here. So it's a commemorative series, Inquisitor Erasmus Cartavelanus. All right, well, I hope you have fun at work. But I hope you have a good night. I'll see you later. I'm talking to my sister, not the whole stream, just so that everybody knows. It's like, I'm not done yet. Love you too. So basically what I have to do now is I've got to finish these purity seals. I've got to finish a couple details like on the little thing here. And I'm still debating on whether or not to do the back of the sword, because the back of the sword is kind of not really visible when you're actually looking at the miniature. But the completionist side of me wants to do the back side of the miniature, even though it would be incredibly difficult to actually do. There's some cleanup I have to do where I added this gold. Some of it got into the black here, and so I just need to touch that up, which is incredibly difficult with the space I have to work with. And then I wanted to make some adjustments on the glow here from the sword on the book. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with the cleanup on some of this metallic stuff that I did. So, I'm just going to go in and start essentially just dropping in black paint to cover some of the mistakes I made when I started this. Death Watch. I keep forgetting. Is Death Watch? Is that the yeah, is it Death Guard or Death Watch? The I can't even remember which one's the actual Space Marine like chapter and which one is the like Chaos Marine Army. Yeah, that's what I thought. I keep forgetting which one's which because, you know, they both have death in the name. Doing stuff like this is where having a brush with a nice sharp tip comes in really, really handy. Because a lot of these areas are very, very small corners. Oops, I'll have to go back and fix that now too. Right, and it's they're also like the one like crew that Space Marines get assigned to, and it can either be considered an honor or it can be considered a punishment depending on the order of Space Marines. No, I don't want to use this. I want to use that. Wrong brush. This is the brush I want. So we're just going to take a little bit of this gold out of this Games Workshop pot. Now, normally I don't keep paint in pots. The only problem is Games Workshop metallics are okay if they're not thinned. If they're thinned, they look terrible. And so in order to put that in the dropper pots like I prefer, or dropper bottles like I prefer, I'd have to thin it. So unfortunately, that I just got to deal with. Uh-oh. Am I lagging? Yep. Come on, man. Don't know if you can hear me, but I completely agree with that statement and that sentiment. Because I am very frustrated right now. Because I pay quite a bit for the internet I have, and it should be a lot faster. And be fine, completely fine for streaming, but... Am I still lagging pretty badly? Or is it back? On my end, it looks like it's back. Okay, yeah. Super annoying. Time to paint some purity seals, man. So the purity seals, I normally base them in this darker tan. I move to this next tan for the mid-tone, and then I'll use a beige color to give all the highlights. And typically, I think it turns out really, really nice. Okay, cool. I will say I haven't rebooted my router in a long, long time, so it might just be that router's like, I need a break. And it's not Time Warner's router either. It's an aftermarket router, so that might have something to do with it too. I don't know. Usually not, because usually the ISP's routers aren't the greatest. And no, hold on, I'm hardwired in. So I gotta reboot the modem. Because I actually ran like a bunch of Cat 6 cable from my modem to my room so that I could actually not have lag. whatever. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. It's annoying, especially because like my job requires me to have decent internet. So like if Time Warner fails me, I'm really out of luck because my landlady doesn't want anyone drilling through the walls, and so getting any other internet provider is impossible because this apartment isn't set up for that. So they would have to drill through the walls, which she doesn't want me doing. Gotcha. Dude, I really like them sculpting on this miniature. It looks so cool. I don't normally play with Inquisitors, but I might actually add this Inquisitor to my army as an agent of the Emperor, which I am allowed to do with Ultramarines. Actually, I think you can do that with any of them, but so just going through and highlighting all the raised areas of these purity seals. And then we'll come back, like I said, with beige and finish it up. And y'all are getting a 2-for-1 special tonight. I might actually finish this one too. And we've got another purity seal just inside his cloak here. There we go. The Grey Knights are just insane, dude. I thought about doing a Grey Knight army, but Grey Knights are just like stupid. Right, and from what I remember, though, from the lore, is that some chapters don't like doing that, and they feel like it's a punishment, or it's used as a punishment to be sent with the Inquisition. So, versus some, it's considered an honor. Whew, dry paint. Alright, so this is going to be our highlight color, and so we'll use a little bit of this and kind of blend those two colors a little bit to get a mid highlight, I guess you could say. Like so. So it's not too bright, but it's got a little bit of our original color in there. And we'll go through and just hit a little bit of this. Just starting to work up. So if we get to our highlight too quickly, it'll look a little bit weird. So we just want to work our way up to it. By the way, well, I'll leave that to the end. Only thing I don't like about this model so far is like the purity seals are so long. Normally the purity seals are tiny. Like, I don't know if I have any space. Yeah, I do. Hold on. I can show you all this. If I can find one of these that has a purity seal on them. None of my assault marines that I have on my desk have a purity seal on them. What in the world? Heretics? Oh well. So normally a purity seal is fairly small, but these guys are just massive. It's really annoying because there's a lot of intricacies in these as well. It makes it look super cool and unique, but it's a pain to make sure that you get all these details done. Fair. I'm more speaking from the actual like painting aspect of it versus the model. Again, I think it makes the model look cool, but it just makes that much more to paint. It's a lot more detail that you can miss or get wrong. There we go. It's looking nice. Looking nice. And then the one other in here. Cool. And our final highlight. So this one, we're just going to hit the very tops of all of these little ridges that are all along this. And then just do some edge highlighting. Which, oddly enough, some of these edges are up against the other seal, so it's going to make it look, kind of help with that separation between the two. So that we don't end up having to use a wash or anything like that to create that separation. See, that looks pretty cool. Certainly looks a lot better than when we started, eh? At least I hope it does. If it looks worse, then my goodness, I failed. Dude, I played so much D&D this weekend. I know that this seems random, but I was just thinking that. So I had a game that I DM on Saturdays every other week. Then I have a game that I'm a player in on Sundays every other week. And then I have the Fallout stream on Sundays. Well, yesterday, this weekend, all of those lined up. So I DM'd While Beyond the Witchlight in person on Saturday. I played session on Sunday, and then I came back for the Fallout stream. So this weekend I had like almost 12 hours of tabletop, which is a lot. And we'll just add in our little final highlight to this bottom one here. It was a lot of fun, yeah. But it was quite exhausting. There. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is the purity seals have been based in a color called Corn Red, which is really nice. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what's called Abominable Gore by Army Painter. It's a nice mid-red, I guess you could say. It's not too bright. It's not too dark, and I'm just going to hit the tops of some of these skulls and the ridges around the purity seal. And what that's going to do is it is going to highlight those and make them pop a little bit more. And that way when I put on the wash on these purity seals, it'll be a little bit more contrasty and it'll look a lot better, a lot nicer. This one's going to be, whew, that was almost bad. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated because it's just, you know, awkward area. That's about it. Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so purity seals, all I have to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of Nuln oil to those. Just a drop each one, not a ton. And that will sink into all those crevices and make the whatever designs on them, whether it's the fleur-de-lis or skull or just a little bump or the Inquisitor's eye. Whatever it is, happens to be, make it look a lot better. I might come back later after everything is said and done and add another layer of that brighter red around it just to make it pop that much more. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna move on to is the, so we've got the skull left. Got some cleanup to do on this little tube that's leading to his power arm. I saw something else that I needed to do, but now I can't find it. All right, I've got to finish the book. And now I've got to do some edge highlighting on the backpack here, which is always difficult when we're talking about blacks because black is very difficult to edge highlight without it looking gray. So let's start with the edge highlighting on the backpack. So all we're doing is adding a thin line of gray along all of these little edges just to make that detail pop. That's really the only point of edge highlighting. It's funny because Heavy Metal, which is the painting team that paints all the box art for 40K, friggin' line highlights everything. It's quite intense. See you, Stormtrooper. I'll talk to you later, man. Thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate it. So we're just hitting all of these little edges on this backpack just to make those details pop a little bit better. We'll come back with a slightly lighter color later on. And instead of this, which I'm doing a little bit more of a bolder line, I'll come back with a much more fine line to really make it pop a little bit more. Again, really all we're trying to do here is define the edges that we're using. By using, I mean that exist. I don't know. One of the things too that we want to make sure if you do paint Warhammer models, the edge highlights, in my opinion, should really only be placed where light would naturally hit. The Heavy Metal team tends to put edge highlighting everywhere, including places where light wouldn't naturally hit. I personally think that that's kind of dumb because if light wouldn't hit there, you wouldn't see a highlight. So I personally only edge highlight areas where I think light would naturally hit. So on the tops of surfaces, where it would be exposed. So I'm transitioning to my lighter gray, and I'm just going to hit as just the absolute top edge of these. What that'll do is it'll kind of give us a little bit of a smoother transition between the darker gray that I used and the lighter gray. If we mess up, it's okay because we're just painting in black, so we don't have to worry about blending or transitions. Like normally when I do Space Marines, I'll base coat them with my airbrush. And I'll base coat the darkest color first, and then I'll do like an overspray of the lighter color. And what that will give me is a nice kind of overall highlight, which looks really, really nice. But the problem is if you make a mistake, it's almost impossible to get back because it was done with an airbrush, not with a paintbrush. So it's a little bit harder to deal with. Because this is just solid black, it's gonna be a lot easier to deal with if we make a mistake. Like that. Again, it just makes all of those cool little details pop. Now, one of the things that the box art has on this is this little control panel in the back is kind of this bluish green aqua kind of thing. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this aqua color, add a little bit of my green in to kind of try to get to that color. There we go. That's almost exactly the color I'm looking for. So we're just going to come into this little control panel on the back. We're just going to add a little bit of color. I guess this is more of a turquoise than a aqua. But just like that. And then we'll add, I think there was like a couple buttons on the back or something like that. Let me do a quick search. It's like the first thing that pops up in my auto because I've looked at pictures of this thing so much, trying to figure out exactly how they did it. So let me pull up this photo real quick. Give me 1 second, bear with me. Come on, there we go. Okay, so they just painted it gold then. All right, not a problem. So we'll grab a little bit of gold. What I'm talking about is there's these two little raised pieces. You'll be able to see it once I actually paint it. Right there on the back. I don't know if you can see it's like an O and an equal sign. Those are both gold in the box art. So I'm using the box art more as a reference here. I'm not really trying to go for like exactly what Heavy Metal did on this miniature. I want it to come close because I want it to look like the miniature it's purporting to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing some recess shading. So this is Drakenhoff Nightshade, and one of the things I like about this is it's a blue wash. And so for instance, this sash that he's got on that I painted up blue, I can put this in the recesses and it doesn't look like it's just black or brown. It actually looks like the color it's supposed to be, which is a dark blue. Doing this is really useful for transitions like this because what you'll find is when you have similar colors, that are close to each other in shade or in luminance, you will end up with them kind of blending together. So if you add some dark or bright line in between those two, you end up making that detail pop a little bit more, which is what edge highlighting does. So next I'm going to start working on the book, because the book is one of the more prominent features of this miniature. So I'm going to grab some white here, thin it down quite a bit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint around the base of the flame as white, because again, like we were talking about with the other miniature, whenever we're painting a light source, the brightest point on whatever that's going to be is going to be as close to white as you can possibly get. And after that, we're going to transition to a orange color and a yellow color, and we're going to start blending between the two, moving out from the flame from white to yellow to orange. And this is all going to happen in a very small area, so it's not going to be as difficult as, say, the wizard was, because I'm not going to have to really try to blend as much as I was with the wizard. And the transitions don't have to be as smooth either. So I'm just going to start painting this yellow around where the white stops and kind of hitting those edges like so. We'll come in with, so that was a blue white, so I'll do some pure yellow just on the other side of that. I'm kind of overlapping my colors too, because I'm not painting a fully opaque layer of yellow or white. So what this is going to do is it's going to kind of naturally start to blend the two colors together. And then we'll do the same thing with orange. We'll blend some orange with this yellow. Give me a bright, fiery orange. I'll do this exact same thing. Just paint it right on the edge of the yellow. Moving out towards the edge. And then ending in our true orange. Like that. I like it. So now what I want to do is add a little bit of a shade to the sides of the book to make some of the details that are on the side of the book pop a little bit more. So I'm going to take my Agrax Earthshade wash, which is a nice brown wash, and just add it to these edges, just to make the details on the edges of this pop a little bit more than they already are. And then same on the front of the book. Not a ton of detail on the front of the book. I'm kind of disappointed about that. They had a really good opportunity on this to kind of add some ridges and make it look like paper, or more like paper, but they didn't, so that's unfortunate. All right, last but not least, the skull on top. We're going to do some really cool detail to that, and then I think we'll finish it up. I can't remember what color I painted. Yeah, okay, so I base coated it in this bone color here, so I'll take some of the color I already used to blend between my beige and that color, and we're just going to hit the top of the skull as a highlight, and then anything that is facing the light or is parallel to the light is going to get painted. It's like above his brow, on his cheekbones, just underneath the eye sockets, on the top of the nose, and then on the front of the teeth. All of that is going to get highlighted. And then we'll move to our final color, which will be that pallid, you know what, let's not use pallid witch flesh. Let's use an actual bone color. So this is polished bone, by Army Painter. It's a really, really nice beige color, or off-white. I've used it for a lot of stuff. Pallid Witch Flesh is a little bit more pink than this is. This is a little bit more brownish. So in my opinion, it works a little bit better for bone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this to the very top of the skull. And just all of those details that are the most prominent. So for instance, we've got the top of the brow, top of the nose, teeth, a little bit on the front of the forehead. Like that. We're just going to make sure that all of our areas are nice and painted. And then it's got this little emblem on the front of the skull, which, looking at the box art, has almost a reddish hue to it. Actually, I kind of want to do that. Okay, change of plans, y'all. So the box art has this really cool, interesting, like reddish glow around the side of the skull that I really want to try. Ooh, that looks cool. So just towards the back of the skull on this side, I'm going to add a little bit of red mixed with black. All the way up in the temple area here. And on the back, on the other side of this rope. And we'll do the same on the other side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in with a wash and make sure that this glow kind of blends in like it does. And then this kind of comes up to the front here into these little forehead holes. I don't know what to call those. They're like forehead holes, guys. 4 holes? I don't know. Like that. So now I'll take some of my Agrax Earthshade and we'll apply that to the entire skull. Kind of darken it a little bit. Start blending in the red that we put on. It's starting to pull a little bit too much, so we're gonna pull off some of that, keep it from pooling too much. One of the things that the Earthshade is actually doing is it is causing a little bit of that red that we applied to start running, which is actually what I kind of wanted, because it'll help us to blend that red in with the brown instead of me manually doing it. Useful tips. Make sure we pull this down to where it's actually hitting the entire skull so that we're not ending up with a difference in color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build back up our highlights from before. Probably to about that. One of the things I want to kind of do with this too, just looking at the way the box art looks, is I want to, blend this in a little bit better so we get a nice soft transition between these two. I think the actual front of the skull is fine as far as the transition goes, but we'll go ahead and start glazing on the forehead to make sure that we get that smooth transition. I'm just going to use a little bit. Doesn't take much. Not bad. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but I think that looks super cool. And finally, there is the kind of rope, cord, cable, whatever, holding the skull on, and it's kind of just this dark gray. I'm just going to take a little bit of my gray black that I've got on my palette already from earlier. I'm just going to very carefully paint this little cable that's holding our skull on. When I say carefully, I mean very carefully, because I do not want to mess up at this stage of the miniature. But if I do, we'll fix it, no problem. Because again, I know I've said this before, but miniatures are like life, right? You're gonna make mistakes. It's just a part of it. What really defines you is how you fix your mistakes. Are you just gonna leave them? Are you gonna cover them up? Or are you going to use them? Now, the difference between, I guess you could say, life and miniature painting is that in miniature painting, covering up a mistake is an absolutely valid way of fixing an error. But in life, not so much. All right. Well, let's do one more thing here. I want to take a little bit of our kind of bone color here and just hit the outside edges of this book just to darken it up a little bit, almost as if the fire is fading before it actually hits the edge. I know that may not make a ton of sense, but I feel like this flame is specifically being passed into the sword, or passed from the sword into the book, versus it being like an actual flame, if that makes sense. It's almost like that the flame is being generated by the intensity of this book being destroyed versus him actually catching it on fire. So, but there it is. I think it turned out super, super cool. If y'all care, I'll go ahead and post pictures of him on my Discord and the TOI Discord as well. But only thing we have left to do, as always, is to paint the base black, as we always do. Cover up any errors that we might have had along the way. Give it a nice matte finish. Even though these bases start out as black, they're kind of a glossy black, or maybe even a satin black. So even though these Warhammer bases are already black, I still think giving it that matte finish looks a lot nicer. And it's also a time where, like, if you make a mistake or if you get some paint on the base from earlier, it's a way you can just really quick go and cover it up. Excuse me. Well, folks, that is the 2-for-1 special stream. So we got our Warhammer 40k Inquisitor, Erasmus, Cartavlanus, and we finished up our wizard here. So got a lot done tonight. Well, I say got a lot done. It was really just finishing touches on both of these because I'd worked on this one in the last 2 streams and this one off stream. So, but still, I feel like I don't really have any other miniatures ready to be painted at this point. So I guess this is just going to be a shorter stream than normal. But as always, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. So it means like a lot to me that y'all would, you know, at the end of the day, when I'm coming off of work and I've had a stressful day or a stressful week, and it's Monday night or it's Wednesday night, and I think to myself coming home on that drive, it's like, you know what, today's been a rough day, but I get to hang out with my friends and I get to paint and relax and paint some awesome miniatures with you guys. And that, I guess you could say, light at the end of the tunnel after a bad day. It's just amazing. So thank you all so much. Every time you show up, every time you come and hang out, even if you're not saying anything, you're just chilling, it means quite a bit to me, and I'm so incredibly thankful for all of y'all. So I hope to see y'all Wednesday, but until then, I hope you have an amazing week and a great night.